Aaron, at Crystal Bay Farm in Watsonville, California, Jeff Fiorovich grows pumpkins.
I grow special ones for pumpkin pie, special ones for savory dishes, a lot of heirloom edibles, each one of them has a story.
The setting is spectacular.
So we're almost right at the center of the Monterey Bay, and we're about, half a mile from the beach.
According to the California Department of Food and Agriculture, over a third of the country's vegetables and 2/3 of the country's fruits and nuts are grown in California. Much of that coming from right here in Central California.
Why is this area, because we're surrounded by farms in this area, why is this area so good for farming?
So it's our mild climate. We can grow crops in the summer that nobody can. We can grow brassicas in the summer, cauliflower, broccoli, Brussels sprouts.
This area is particularly good for growing strawberries, which is not an easy life.
Picking strawberry is hard. What I do want to say about this, and I think this term should be just banned, is the term unskilled labor. I mean, I don't think anything is really an unskilled labor, but strawberry picking is an art. These guys are athletes. You got to watch these guys. They're running. I mean, they're picking their berries, running to the end of get that thing back to the truck. They're bent over all day. Back issues.
Jeff's farm is not a big one. He and his wife do most of the work themselves. He says he used to hire some part-time pickers during strawberry season to help out, but those workers have disappeared over the last few years.
We need a better system, though, to get labor out here to do it. To think you're going to get your local average guy to go out and do this job, or gal, they'd be laughed out of the field for one, and they wouldn't want to come back the next day anyways.
So when people
they're out in the sun all day,
So when people say these are not jobs Americans want to do, there's truth to that.
100%. And I don't know if they could do it. So most of us, we're soft, man.
Alejandra is anything but soft.
Walking through the desert at night was terrible. I would trip over rocks, I'd walk under trees without knowing it, and they would grab my hair and grab the baby on my back.
Alejandra, not her real name, came to the U.S. illegally several years ago with her husband and 2 small children, walking across the desert for 5 days.
Our 2 babies hadn't eaten anything the whole 5 days, so they were just skin and bones.
In Mexico, she says they worked in the fields for very little money with no childcare, so her starving babies would have to be in the fields with her, eating dirt to fill their empty stomachs. And they'd often get sick. She felt she had no choice but to come to the United States and ended up picking strawberries in Watsonville.
Yes, trabajamos ahí con ellos como 6 años.
We worked for the grower who taught us how to pick strawberries for 6 years. And then my back just started killing me from being bent over picking strawberries. So then we decided to go pick apples instead. But the apples were a problem because we'd have to wear a sack over our chests on the side and fill it up with 20 to 25 pounds of apples. And that put a lot of pressure on my chest muscles and my neck.
They're discardable humans. They're not valued, and they die at an average life expectancy of 49 years.
Dr. Ann Lopez has been studying the issues surrounding farm labor and undocumented immigrants for decades. She's the director of the Center for Farmworker Families.
At least 60% of farm workers in the state are undocumented.
And while farmer Jeff Fiorovich says he noticed a drop in available labor starting 10 years ago.
I mean, people say that, the common, you hear this little talking point, Obama open borders kind of thing, but he was pretty tough on it, I think.
Dr. Lopez says under the Trump administration, things have gotten worse.
Yeah, a lot of them would rather just go back and be with their immediate families and go hungry than have to deal with the fear.
And so the farms, are they having trouble finding people to work?
Yep.
The lack of available labor shows President Trump's immigration policies are working, but Dr. Lopez says at what cost?
I suppose if you prevented all immigrants from coming here and the whole economy, $50 billion agricultural economy in the state collapsed, we would have to import food. And are people willing to pay $25 a piece for an apple?
And she also believes in the theory that these undocumented immigrants are doing the jobs Americans won't.
10 hours a day, 6 days a week in the field, in the heat, in the cold, walking through mud, etc. And sometimes their entire paycheck does not pay their rent. Wow. It's disgraceful. I mean, this is no way to treat human beings.
She says farms exploit these workers because they can.
And I think that it's a remnant of the slave days. What I see is rather than, as in slavery, a person buying and using bodies like they did at that time, what we have is laws, institutions, rules, and regulations that keep these people trapped and from which escape is nearly impossible.
Some would argue, to the slavery comparison,
Yeah.
slaves were brought here against their will.
Right.
These people are making a choice to come here.
No, they're not. They are here to survive as a result of NAFTA, which ran them off of their farms that they had farmed sustainably for from 7,000 to 9,000 years.
And that's probably one of the few things that Dr. Lopez and President Trump agree on, that NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement, put in place by President Clinton in 1994, was terrible.
NAFTA basically ran them off their farms, and one of their three choices, rather than stay on the farm and starve or go to a big city and look for work, was to come here and farm, which is the only thing they know how to do. So it's a matter of survival. It's not choice. They're here under duress.
So what about the farms that employ undocumented workers? Dr. Lopez says, sure, if you hire undocumented workers, you can be fined, but
I've only heard it actually enforced one time, and it amounted to a slap on the wrist. So, I mean, there's lots of laws on the books that protect farm workers. They're just not enforced.
down the road from Crystal Bay Farm, inland, away from the ocean and rolling hills, there's a housing project for farm workers. The tiny homes sit bundled together, surrounded by dirt, in between a city dump and a county jail. It's in the middle of nowhere. Most people probably have no idea it exists. Rent is cheap, around $350 a month, but in order to live there, you have to be working on a farm, something that's becoming harder and harder for Aracel Fernandez.
And this last Wednesday, something bad happened to her in the back, and she's getting to that point where she's not even able to stand up and walk.
She has a dislocated disc in her back after slipping in the wet fields, just her latest injury. Previously, she worked for one strawberry farm for 8 years until she got hurt.
And after she got better of the injury, she tried to get back to the job, but they didn't want to hire her because she had a thing on the back, hernia. Yeah, so she couldn't work there. They didn't want to hire her because of that.
So she found a smaller farm that did hire her.
At the end of that season, they didn't even pay nothing.
After a lot of time and effort, she tracked down the owner of the farm.
The owner had like a big house with nice cars and had like a big property.
But he wouldn't pay, so she took him to court.
After they went to court and stuff, he declared himself on like without money in the bank or something, and bankruptcy, and they didn't got nothing still.
Saracel, by the way, is an American citizen.
We have 420,000 farm workers in this state, and this is what they're dealing with. This is completely un-American, unethical, immoral, and has to stop.
One guy has spent decades trying to make it stop.
So I'm Jim Cochran, and I'm the founder and owner of Swanton Berry Farm.
Up the coast from Watsonville, along California's picturesque Highway 1, which runs along the Pacific Ocean, you'll find Swanton Berry Farm in Davenport, a blink and you'll miss it town about an hour and a half south of San Francisco.
Do you love strawberries?
Oh boy, I sure do. I mean, even to this day, that strawberry shortcake is wonderful, and strawberries and ice cream is wonderful.
And Jim also loves treating his workers fairly. Swanton Berry Farm was the first commercially viable organic strawberry farm in California, and also the first organic farm to sign a contract with the United Farm Workers, AFL-CIO.
You know, we pay a little bit higher than most farms per hour, but the important thing is that we provide year-round employment. And we don't pay people by piece rate, which is great for a 19-year-old, but not so good for a 59-year-old.
It's a cause Jim has been fighting for since the 60s. First, he got interested in the labor movement, and the strawberry farm followed.
I wanted to try to find a way for the people who were on the lower rungs to make more money and participate more in the American dream.
Jim took me out to his strawberry fields, where music played from iPhones as the workers scooped up the fruit. And I met Elacio, who's worked for Swanton Berry Farm for 5 years.
I working before in other works, and this is better.
Why is it better?
It's organic, and other companies so much pesticides, and here nothing, all organic.
Yeah.
I like, and the company help more for the union. The unions so much opportunity for the people.
Have you worked on non-union farms before?
Yeah, the farms, the not union is more not easy. Is
Why?
Sometimes no water, no restrooms. Here I have insurance. In other company no insurance, and the pension here after 55 years pension for the people. Insurance for my teeth, holidays, 10 holidays here in this company. Another company, nothing.
Swanton Berry Farm is also Food Justice certified. Most people are familiar with food being certified organic. Food Justice certified means that in addition to being organic, the workers used to grow and pick the food get a fair wage, benefits, humane working conditions, and the ability to be a part of a union if they wish.
It's more expensive to do it properly, but more and more consumers have decided that that's important to them. Back when I signed the contract with the United Farmworkers, maybe 10% of the people that saw the union label cared very much about it, and I would say it's up to 40% now.
Looking for a strawberry to pick.
And all of that extra care and attention produces a darn good strawberry.
That looks pretty. I'm gonna try this one.
Yeah.
That's so delicious. That's really good.
Maybe the berry was better than what you'd find in a chain supermarket, or maybe knowing that it was grown by someone who was treated fairly made it taste better. And Dr. Ann Lopez hopes that at the very least, as you sit down to Thanksgiving this year, you give a little more thought to where your food came from.
People are very concerned about organic, non-GMO, all that, but no one's asking, what about the labor? What kind of salary do these people? How do they live? Do they have a bed to sleep on?
Aaron?